Ah, it's a 3-wagon train loaded with giant Easter eggs. How excellent! Hello and welcome back to the railway. This was going to be... That's a tiny motor. And there's the little tiny motor, a bit of foam on top. And there's still lurches. Quite well detailed. I'll just turn them over. I mean, you've even got all the brake rodding. It's an unfitted vehicle, but you've got brake rodding, a little bit of shock absorber. Let's see if we can zoom in. An urgent order for anti-aircraft guns and ammunition arrived at the supply depot. As time passes, a troop train hurries past the yard. Our foreman makes sure the crew are fully briefed, then waves the train off. So as she creeps forward there, which was one of the reasons the Stanier 8F was so successful, they could move forward very slowly. However, because of the fitted wagons, i.e. vacuum cylinders fitted, couplings could be snapped, something that could happen due to the pressures involved. At the rear of the train, of course, was the brake van. Hear the word or phrase pinning down the brakes, and I'm going to try and show you. We'll bring in 2 more modern models. Secure the train and go back and unpin all the wagons ready for going flat or uphill in steam days. We had 42 16 tons of stone on. Luckily a class 8. Best brakes on any engine. Wagons. Numbered 35023. Adding to a growing collection of these fine models. Felt really sad for the loss of this person and the breaking up of his precious collection. However, Adrian told me that he and a member of his family had seen some of my videos, and it brought them comfort to know that the models were being treasured and run. And so they will be. So when I saw Oxford Rail announce their new range of apparently accurate tank wagons, I was very tempted. I then saw the Carless petrol wagon, a brand name missing from my collection, so I decided to get one. Looking closely, we can see that all the text is clear and legible, if only you have the means to see it. In fact, I'm really impressed by the decoration of this wagon. My only real the firm's output included the production of TNT, and the works suffered severe bomb damage, especially at the Lee Works, hit in 1940. In 1981 they took delivery of 51-ton monoblock tank wagons from a French Oxford Rail have outdone themselves with this Shell BP tank wagon. The detail, accuracy and quality is amazing, and they have done all of that at a fair price. Catalogue can immediately run too, and they'll look like different vehicles. Every detail the same. So this beautifully dates it for us. The red pre-war mid-band on the tank had gone, and instead the soul bar was now red. Of a nightmare. These parts fit through slots in the chassis. However, as we're DC only, I'll just mop up a few of the little bit of overspills. And there we are, all done. Runs beautifully. See the tender steps there. Body very keen to show up any finger marks. The only way to line the buffers up was to tilt the back of the loco in the air. The final straw came when part of the valve gear fell off during my attempt to run in the model. However, I returned the full added crew, so let's take a look at her running. I'll add in some sounds of the real thing, courtesy of YouTube channels Mr. No One and Steam Clips. These two channels produce wonderful videos of real trains 13 hauled on the Manchester to Carlisle leg of the trip. Pilot scheme awarded Clayton Equipment Company to construct a fleet of 10 Type 1 800 horsepower locomotives in November 1955, designated for local freight and branch line use. The engine was the Paxman 16Y HXL and drove British Thomson Houston BTH electrical equipment. 4 survived in departmental use as carriage heating units. However, even before the last of the class was delivered, serious technical problems meant the locomotives were spending more time in Stratford Works than on duty. The main issue was the diesel engine, which had a tendency to seize represented rather well. D5705 Class 28, making final preparations to depart the yard with its special train, the Condor. Yes, there were named freight trains as well. The London and Glasgow depots were supplied with the latest lifting equipment for speedy loading and unloading. The service was heavily promoted. Experience of building diesel locos for Ireland. Crossley Marine 2-stroke engines were used, the same as used by the British Admiralty. BR wanted a 1,200 horsepower engine with a maximum axle weight of 18 tonnes. Stickers were in my opinion not fit for purpose, so I've printed my own code using Dual Sans MT font at size 11. Using a black shape with white characters brought forward under layers, it looks well enough, but I'd like to print them off on something more stable in time. Back on our customary view of the last loco to be featured in this series, the Class 23 Baby Deltic, with a typical suburban train in tow. And action is D6322, a disc head code fitted loco with a typically rural train made up of cattle wagons, new tractors and some coal. Passing our train running light in the opposite direction to the yard is D6316. Interesting, the locos built with disc head codes had the discs fitted so that they open and close vertically. Chassis and the cab on one side. The centre steps are incredibly vulnerable. As usual, we see the previous loco featured in this series, or one of them anyway, the BR Blue Class 22. Four of the tankers are some of my original old Triang Hornby ones. They've been with me for very many years. Here is the Class 17, maybe better known as a Clayton, with a substantial livestock train in tow. Haldren's model initially followed a very prototypical path, with the first batch of models grinding to a smoky halt. At 75 miles per hour. However, the BTC wanted the locomotives to be lighter for better route availability, and so holes were drilled in the bogies allocated to Finsbury Park Diesel Depot. The rebuilt locos emerged as non-standard and shamefully were withdrawn for early scrap. They were all gone by March 1971. Let's have a look at this train running first of all. Our catalogue number are 6737 and 6737A, carrying different running numbers. Designed by Maunsell to diagram 1529 and introduced in 19 from Gloucester Carriage and Wagon Works, one of 170 built. It carries a lengthy inscription on one side with instructions for loading and unloading in 1936, which had refrigeration in the form of ice cooling. As can be seen, it's far darker brown. Numbered SM2202. Clearly the standard Air Ministry tag others. This allows me to run the same traffic from 1953 onwards. But what was electrical oil here? One of the class was sent to Davy Paxman's works in Colchester, where a Ventura power unit was installed. A large number of the class were so treated and became Class 29s. And what an engine we have for our overnight express. Now at the head of our model railway fans' end of COVID celebration train is none other than Sir William Stanier, Princess Coronation. The restaurant coaches came about as there was a move within the travelling public away from them. 128 were built by Press Steel or Birmingham Carriage and Wagon Works between 1960 and 62, but were refurbished in 1977 and were added into trains with more modern coaches such as the Mark IIs, as no new buffet coaches had been built. And now tweezers can be used to withdraw the armature and brushes all in place. Sorry for the thumb. The worm to the face of the can and the motor must be 10mm, using a vice, very gentle pressure with that little ram. Name is Frank, and his team will go and check all is well with the track about the railway. Amy and her dad rush to the location the sound came from, and so we see what has happened. A Class A petrol tanker has run away and derailed on the point. Hairless Harry arrives with a fire extinguisher. Amy, call the fire. Gentlest shunting locomotives arrives in the shape of the Aliniar Steam Sentinel. Not box pot, as some incorrectly say. These were a different design by Oliver Bullard and developed by the steel company Firth Brown of Sheffield. They were lighter and far more reliable than spoked wheels and reduced the hammer blow to the rails would also have undergone. The cabs had been changed. The cabs on these locos were very popular with the crews, plenty of space. Withdrawn in January 1965 with over 800,000 miles on the clock. 35007 by contrast had nearly 1.48 in 1959 respectively, and this produced a very handsome and successful locomotive indeed. Here is 35030 Elder Dempster Lines in rebuilt condition. She was also the last Merchant Navy class built, and that was in April 1949. A grand total of £18.52 for 4 motors. They were just over £4 each, and just £2 postage. Yes, it can crawl. What I should do is go through all of them that have been sent to me, the 4 Hornby ones, and see which is the best one. Now these have fit the body, and we'll give it a test and see what happens. Right, other than to confirm the polarity to make sure the motor is in the right way around, I haven't run it at all, so this is the first time it runs in anger. I'm going to turn the controller up very slowly. Ha! Look at that. It's moving freely enough, but there's clearly going to be a good clean up required. Let's see how she gets on. 22, and in 1971 she was modified to dual braking system, again in 35 miles an hour. The H may refer to Manchester or Inverness, or maybe a local code, and the 22 is the number of trains over that route. Kernow Model Rail Centre, exclusive by Bachmann. Here is a Hornby Terrier in BR livery with these new wagons. Carriage and maintenance team. Having worked the whole night through, the wagon is now ready to roll, and a local freight is commandeered to work the important load forward, to be picked up by another express freight later in the day. Initially the crew of our 1P is concerned about the weight, but after a little shunting and a run round, the train departs and makes good progress. Then, after a suitable pause, the vans are swapped around. Surely a fine example of Model Railway Rule 1 in action.
Train. Draw them all back behind 3 points and set back onto 2 sidings. Go all the way down to shed roads. Right then, we need 2 cupboard and open with wood outside shed. Then for shed, we want 2 fish.
Fortunately, the guard was true to his reputation, as ordered a new outside loo for the coal yard. It's due to arrive on the daily mixed freight. Here it is, hauled by the lovely BT well tank loco. Just about to be lifted. While this dried, I kept them located using cocktail sticks in the holes on both pickups and bogie frame. I also had some 6-core cable that would be used from the Model D to the control box, keeping with all the colour. The ammeter control box is all set up, and as you saw when we were building it, that switch is to turn off the HF. This is a locomotive that I had originally ordered ages ago, and then wrote to the shop and said please cancel it, it's taking too long. And I'm going to cut the power suddenly when I throw that switch, and look at the slow stop. It's a heck of a heavy train too for the model, which it handled perfectly well.
But also the trying to get down to the physics of what's going on. And that led me on a bit of a a rabbit hole down to understand what was
down through. And already you can see these little black bits that are appearing. We think these are the micro.
Let's see how the story went. One of those newsletters came through. The lamp head code is a partly fitted through express freight train. Various modifications were made to the 8F design in order to prioritise low cost. The 9Fs had slightly smaller boilers than the Britannias to allow a wide Belpaire firebox and grate. We hope you enjoyed this video. In 1955, the 3,300 horsepower, which gave a horsepower per tonne measurement which was a 150% improvement on English Electric's previous designs, built by English Electric and loaned to BR for testing. Hopes were high for the export market, hence the large bonnet headlight, but sadly this was never realised on the line. Objections to this order included those of limited permitted top speed due to the mass of the locomotive, the potential for the order to delay a proposed electrification scheme first sight for me. In October 1993, Deltic was moved to the National Rail channel. You will see that in July 2021 I did indeed get one, and made a video called Trying L1 Restored. To be allowed. With luck, you will see this L1 again, happily running with trains, with no more disasters.